Welcome into KC Sports Tonight, Monday edition. I'm Katie Marr, that's Mark Palos, and we have a lot to talk about today, which is a change from the last few Mondays I feel like that we've had. It's been a very dry couple of weeks, but now we have the Royals' first sweep of the season, a thrilling walk-off win to make that happen, might I add, coming back from down 6-0. And the NFL draft has wrapped up, so a lot to talk about. Mark, we're going to start with that Royals walk-off, of course, that happened. If you went to the K yesterday, you got there for a 3 o'clock game that got moved up. Originally, it was a 6 o'clock game, and then weather, of course. As we know, the weather has been weathering here in Kansas City. And if you stayed all the way till 9 p.m. when it ended, you got rewarded with a 10-inning game that featured a 2-run homer from Jack Caglione to tie it up in the bottom of the ninth. And then, of course, they go to extras where Lane Thomas hits his first career walk-off home run, and it's a 3-run homer. That was a fun game, Mark.
No, it certainly was, and I think for the Royals, so much around this team over the last couple of weeks, it has just been so negative. And I know a lot of people go out there like, hey, these are professional athletes, they should be able to flush it, just move on the next day. But at the end of the day, yeah, do they make hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars? Yes, they do, but they are also human. And I think the cloud of negativity that has surrounded them potentially, I'm not saying it is, potentially could have been lifted by this series sweep that they just had. I mean, think about, they win the first 2 games of that series pretty easily, and then yesterday they fall behind. There's all this rain. There's all this weather. You and I were kind of seeing some of the screen grabs from the Peacock broadcast of the rain, and we couldn't believe the game was still going. And
that people were still willingly sitting in the stands.
Oh, I know. Those fans that sat in the stands,
But there are so many places you could go find, shelter to sit under, and still watch the game. But hey,
not if you're a baseball hardo.
They're die hard.
I remember a couple of years ago, actually, this is many, many years ago. I was in high school, so this was probably 20 years ago. There was a rain-delayed game that I was at, and I actually left. And then the Royal, after you leave the stadium, they're not supposed to allow you back in. Yeah. But since I was in high school, me and my buddies were like, hey, we left. There was a rain delay. We want to allow back in, and they actually let us back into the game. I know this is not about me, but after they allowed me back in, I caught a hot dog from the hot dog cannon. Possibly, though, the worst hot dog of my life. It was absolutely disgusting. I ate 2 bites.
Don't they...
It was cold, it was gross, and it wasn't good. But I digress.
But it's a great story.
But what I was saying, though...
Who can say they've caught hot dogs from hot dog cannons?
Yeah, and Slugger shot the cannon when I caught it. But there was no one in my row, so I kind of ran and got it. But...
Oh, it fell down?
Yeah. No, I caught it. I ran, I was feeling the ball like I was Kyle Isbell, and I caught it.
Kyle
yeah,
Isbell.
Right in the breadbasket. Can of corn, as they say in baseball. But what I was saying, though, with this... The way that they won yesterday... They could have thrown in the towel a million times. No one would have blamed them. They'd be like, yeah, it was a rainy day. They moved the game up. Seth Lugo got shelled, and there were all these delays.
Had 6 runs in the second inning.
And then Jack Caglione, down to the last out, hits a 2-run homer. And Lane Thomas, who's been getting a lot of hate from the fans, hits the walk-off home run. So, Katie, to me, I think that this game could be maybe a launching pad for the Royals. Hopefully. What do you think?
Absolutely. They needed to just get a series sweep because they haven't all season until this past weekend. And it can do a lot in terms of a team's confidence, especially when the Royals had not even won a series since the beginning of April. That was the last time they won a series. They tied a 4-game series with the White Sox 2-2, but they have not won a series since I think it was against the Brewers at the start of April. April 1st or 2nd was that day. So this was big. Just they needed to get... They needed to win. They needed to sweep a team. They needed to win a series. They needed to do it at home, I think, was also important because you always want to do that stuff at home. And be able to storm back because, we've heard Matt Quattrero
Storm back. Yeah, look what she did there.
It wasn't even intentional, but thank you for noticing. Matt Quattrero has talked a lot this season about how these guys haven't been hanging their heads, which is what's kind of made him not too hopeless about, we have the worst record in Major League Baseball right now, but it's still early in the season, et cetera, et cetera. But he said that the guys still have good attitudes about it. And a team that doesn't have good attitudes when in situations like that, they don't come back from down 6-0 in the second inning and bring it to 10 and hit 2 crazy, home runs. So I credit the Royals for being able to do that amidst, the fact that they had the worst record in Major League Baseball a week ago, that the hitting woes are still plaguing them. But we saw those flashes even in their last game or the last series. against the Orioles before they hosted the Angels. They lost the series. They won one game, lost 2 games, but they still were hitting. They were hitting well, and they were scoring at least 5 runs in all those games. So we saw those flashes, and then it kind of comes into fruition against the Angels this past weekend.
Well, yeah, and I think if you kind of like zoom out, look at this big picture wise, look at the homestand. It was a 4-2 homestand, and that is progress for this team. Think about how the homestand started on Monday against the Baltimore Orioles. They are up 1-0 going into the 9th inning. They bring out lights out Lucas Erceg to slam the door shut, and he can't do it. The game goes into extra innings, and they end up losing, I believe, 7-5. The Orioles hit a grand slam in the 12th inning to kind of, put the game out of reach there, and the Royals weren't able to come back. I mean, that's about as deflating as a loss as any baseball team can have. Like, Jack Caglione hit a 440-foot homer that game. They couldn't score any runs. They bring out what a lot of people think is the best reliever on the entire team, even when Carlos Estevez is healthy and he can't get the job done, and they lose a backbreaker. Like, that was maybe one of the – I've watched Royals baseball for many years. That loss on Monday was one of the worst losses I've ever seen. It just felt so bad for the team. Then
and
you fast forward
had 2 of those this season so far with
the
Carlos
worst
Estevez.
one, Carlos Estevez in the first week of the season. How could I forget giving up the grand slam in the 9th? God, that was the worst. But think about the way then that it ended. Like yesterday, there's so much momentum they can get from that game with Caglione. I mean, and Lane Thomas hitting those homers. But also look at the difference that one weekend can make from the previous weekend. So this weekend they sweep the Angels. The previous weekend they were taking on the Yankees. They were colliding in the outfield. Balls were dropping. They weren't scoring runs. They were getting blown out. So I think just kind of mental refresher-wise, a lot of things, I think it was a good weekend for the Royals. And also Carter Jensen, Jack Caglione, 2 of the young guys, really been playing well, I believe, since April 1st. So good to see some of the young core really showing up when the Royals need it the most.
Yeah, and Carter Jensen got to hit leadoff one of these games this weekend. That's a pretty cool thing for the Kansas City Kid. While, Michael Garcia was still kind of dealing with his elbow soreness and such. It was also a cool feeling, I think, for Jack Caglione, who, since he's been called up, has also been dealing with a lot of pressure from fans to be this saving grace, the guy who's supposed to be able to hit. Who we saw what he did in AAA, and he just wasn't doing that when he first started. He's getting a lot of contact with the balls that he's getting, but they're not turning into runs as much. I think was a really good sign for him, and that's a really big confidence booster for him when he is a guy that we're all expecting to be able to do that type of stuff with the power that he has.
No, I like how you said confidence booster, because I really think that's what Jack Caglione needs, because you hear so much about how he has all this potential in the world, but there's an old phrase that in baseball, I'm sure you've heard it before, potential means he hasn't done it yet.
Yeah.
And what he did last night, like when he hit that home run, when he looked to the dugout, when he let out like that big scream, like that's a guy I believe that's starting to believe in his own abilities and his own ability to knock out major league pitching. And I think maybe now he's hit his 2nd home run this year, both on this past homestand, I believe. Maybe this could be a little bit of Jack Caglione turning the page and developing into the player that he certainly has the tools to become.
Yeah, and then he gets his double cheek kisses from Vinny Pasquantino, his fellow Team Italy friend. That was fun. It's refreshing when we get to have fun watching the Royals, because sometimes it's not fun watching the Royals when they lose a game 1-0 or 2-0 or 2-1. So it's always a bonus, and the fans who stayed through all the storm and the rain delay stuff that happened last night definitely got a treat.
They deserve like tickets to another game.
Yeah.
Like those people need something, because those are the diehard Kansas City Royals fans, and up to this point in the season they did not have a lot to cheer about. If they're going to stick it out with severe weather, monsoon-like conditions, the boys in blue, they need to hook those fans up with something.
Yeah, but I want to see the Royals keep it up because they've got a 6-game road trip this week that starts today. The day off tonight. They have the day off today. Words are hard. And then tomorrow they play a late game at like 8:40 at night against the Athletics, and then they will be back home next Monday. So I'm hoping that we see this momentum continue against the A's. If this is a disappointing series, I think that would be just kind of stinky.
Yeah, going out to Sacramento, AAA ballpark. Just go out there and show them, hey, we play in a big league ballpark. We don't play in one of these rinky-dink situations.
We play at Kauffman Stadium.
Yeah, we play at Kauffman Stadium, and we're moving downtown.
Show them who you are, Royals. Okay, this weekend was also a pretty big weekend in the NFL because the 2026 NFL Draft wrapped up on Saturday, began on Thursday, and the Chiefs have added, I would say, how would you grade, before we get into all the guys, what grade would you give the Chiefs draft class?
I mean, overall, I don't know if I'm going to give it a letter grade, but I do think it's pretty good because I think, a lot of fans not necessarily happy with them drafting Mansour Delane, trading up to get him at number 6. But the Chiefs need guys that can defend the pass. They went out there. They got the best cornerback in the draft. Garrett Nussmeier, when he was talking about when he had his post-draft interview, he said the Chiefs got the best cornerback in America. I think they addressed a huge position of need. They don't really have a lot of corners on the roster. I think he's a really good player. Their other first-round pick, defensive tackle Peter Woods, this is a guy I've seen play in the ACC for 3 years, 3 and out. When he entered college, he was he was the number 1 defensive tackle in America, and he's kind of, he's kind of lived up to some of that hype. And I know going into this year, a lot of people thought Peter Woods was potentially a top 10 pick just because of the way that he had played as a freshman and a sophomore. This year, kind of slimmed down. The numbers weren't there, but he's still a disruptive player. Defensive line isn't necessarily, especially defensive tackle, isn't necessarily a position that you can grade based on counting stats. But, those top 2 guys in the draft, even count R. Mason Thomas there with the 40th overall pick. I think the Chiefs, at the top of the draft, addressed things that they wanted to address, their defensive backfield and their defensive line, and they believe that Mansour Delane was a tier above a lot of other players. According to GM Brett Veach, he said that Steve Spagnuolo thought Mansour Delane was the best player in the entire draft if you didn't just draft by position. Just throughout position, who are the best football players? Steve Spagnuolo thought Mansour Delane was the best player in the draft. And is that true? Is that not true? Time will tell, but the Chiefs did what they needed to do, and they got a number 1 corner for them, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, when you give away a number 1 corner in exchange for draft picks, one of them being a first-round draft pick, you kind of just have to expect that especially when the Chiefs, who don't have any corners on their roster, really, you have to expect that one of those first-round picks is going to go to that. And if you're already in the top 10 and you have them, they had a lot of stuff they had 9 picks going into this draft, so I feel like a trade was kind of expected at that point because they had so much to work with. And I think we heard Brett Veach say that they very much thought the Saints were going to take Mansour Delane before them. So if that is in fact true, then they absolutely did the right thing by trading up. I liked the decision to do it. I felt like they had the draft capital to do so and still come out with a really good draft class. So I'm not mad about the decision for them to trade up and get Mansour Delane. I agree. I think he's absolutely one of the best players in the draft. Obviously, he goes 6 overall, so that's kind of to be said. But I do think the Chiefs aren't going to do that lightly unless they feel like this is a guy that really can fill the shoes that Trent McDuffie once filled as a 2-time All-Pro with the Chiefs. So I like the decision mainly just because they just desperately needed someone of that caliber who can develop into that type of player.
No, amen to everything that you just said. And I kind of want to address some Chiefs fans right now because out there you'll see a lot of people. They can't believe that the Chiefs traded up. They can't believe this, that. They wanted a different position. They want a wide receiver. They wanted defensive end. My question for those Chiefs fans is, if they did that, who was going to defend the pass next season? Who was going to play cornerback for the Kansas City Chiefs? Were they going to go out and sign a great corner in free agency? No, they cost way too much money. They had to get a player that they could afford that was really, really good. And, kind of in hindsight, we probably should have seen that the Chiefs were looking at a corner number 1 for their number 1 draft pick just because of the positional need, how much money they have to spend, and just some of the moves they've made this offseason. Like they signed a backup corner from the Miami Dolphins who's coming off a horrendous knee injury. Are we expecting that guy to be a big contributor? No. We saw they signed Christian Fulton last year. Do we expect him to be a big contributor? Probably not. Like we saw what he was here last year, didn't start the year healthy. Did he play a lot the rest of the season? Was he really that great of a player? No. Like the Chiefs in the National Football League, you have got to be able to get after the quarterback and defend the pass. Right now, as constructed before the draft, the Chiefs did not have anyone really that could defend the pass. Like Trent McDuffie, gone. Jalen Watson, gone. Joshua Williams, gone. Like, who'd they have? They needed to get a corner. So I know a lot of Chiefs fans, they shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have traded up. But, who was going to play cornerback for the Chiefs next year if they didn't draft one? That's my question.
And it was also only 3 positions, and, it's not like they gave away another first-round pick to do so. So, I don't understand the hoopla that some people are raising over it. It was absolutely the right decision.
But they read one article on Pro Football Focus that said that the Chiefs have bad process. So now the Chiefs have bad process for everything. It's like the Chiefs have won Super Bowls. Yes, they have Patrick Mahomes. Yes, they have other good players. But like, think about Trent McDuffie, pretty good corner that they drafted. Jalen Watson, pretty good corner that they drafted. Joshua Williams, a pretty good corner that they drafted that another team has taken to be a starter elsewhere. The Chiefs are pretty good at identifying these defensive backs. Look at Noel Williams last year. In my opinion, I don't know if he was injured at the end of the year. I think they kind of wanted to hide him from the league, hide him from the rest of the league, keep him a secret. But when he played, Noel Williams was pretty darn good.
He was developing well.
So I think you got to give the Chiefs the benefit of the doubt when they're picking defensive backs.
Exactly, especially when it is the same GM that had built all of their recent Super Bowl rosters. But yeah, I understand the frustration with they wanted a wide receiver, and there are a lot of Chiefs fans who probably wanted a wide receiver taken much earlier than they did end up taking one. But the Chiefs didn't address offense until round 5 by taking the Big Ten running back of the year, Emmett Johnson, out of Nebraska, and then they get Cyrus Allen, they get the receiver in the 6th, in the 5th as well, out of Cincinnati. So I don't hate I think it would have made sense either way had they taken a receiver a few rounds earlier, maybe, round 3 or whatever. But I don't hate the decision because they still do have Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy catching passes from Patrick Mahomes. It's not like they just cleaned out their receivers. They just needed some depth.
Well, I guess he's not a wide receiver, but he's definitely a pass catcher. We can't forget about Travis Kelce.
That's also true.
I mean, Mr. Taylor Swift, is he getting up there in age? Yes. Is he getting long in the tooth? Yes. But last year, was he 4th among all tight ends in receiving yards? Yes. Was he number 1 in the NFL in tight ends among receiving yards when Patrick Mahomes was his quarterback? Yes. Like, his stats tailed off at the end of the year. Who was throwing him the ball? Gardner Minshew and Chris Oladokun. I think in some games they had like 30 yards total passing. So when Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce were on the field together, Travis Kelce led the league in tight end receiving yards. The guy, is he as fast as he was? No. Is he as great as he was 5 years ago? No. Is he still one of the best tight ends in the league, at least last year? Yes, he was. And I obviously, the Chiefs might kind of want some pass catchers. But the Cyrus Allen, what really jumped off the page to me when I was kind of digging on him after the Chiefs drafted him, he had like 700 receiving yards last year, but he had 13 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. He's a 6-foot wide receiver. 13 touchdowns is a lot in college football, especially. I mean, he led Cincinnati.
That's a touchdown per game.
No, exactly. That's an unbelievable production there for Cyrus Allen. So I'm kind of excited to see what he does here in Kansas City. And then we were talking about him a little bit. Emmett Thomas, looking him up, I was obviously he's the Big Ten running back of the year, tremendous player in a tremendous conference. Was his pass catching ability really stood out to me. Like almost all the video I was seeing of him that were big, long touchdown plays, it was wheel routes, screen passes, and we know, if the Chiefs can have a dynamic pass catcher out of the backfield, I mean, they already signed Kenneth Walker who can do that, but if they can add another guy, I think that's pretty scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the decision, and I'm sure that our very own Brad Stevens probably also likes the decision to take Emmett Johnson in the 5th
round. A lot
of
Nebraskans in this newsroom. Like, you just look around.
Nebraskans.
Yeah, you're like, oh, Nebraska fan here, Nebraska fan there. Or they just pop out of the woodwork.
Yeah, but then the Chiefs do something that I don't think a lot of people saw coming with their final pick late in the 7th round, and that's they took a quarterback. And that's a quarterback that coming into last season of college football before the season began, we were saying earlier, a lot of people thought it was going to be a first-round pick. And then LSU did not have the season they expected to, and he was dealing with oblique stuff and some injuries throughout the season. So he didn't have the season that they were expecting to. But again, going into that season, he was projected to be a first-round pick who had done really well in college football before that. That's Garrett Nussmeier. And I think it caught a lot of people by surprise because the Chiefs traded away a 6th-round 2027 pick for Justin Fields, and everyone's like, okay, like we have Patrick Mahomes backup now, whatever. And then we, as Marlia Campbell, if you watched her 4:30 story on this today, you can watch it again tonight at 10. You'll hear the Chiefs' reasoning behind that.
And on KCTV5.com.
And on KCTV5.com. They want to get back to having a developed quarterback to back up Patrick Mahomes. You don't know what's going to happen with a guy like Justin Fields and how long he's going to be there. I think when the Chiefs for so long had a guy like Chad Henne, who was just this reliable backup who could come in and just do the job well when he needed to, God forbid. It just feels like they maybe want to get back to that. And Garrett Nussmeier was possibly a late steal, because he was supposed to be a first-round draft pick before his season started last year.
I think your analysis there is 100% spot on. I think, if Chiefs fans kind of look at this situation with Justin Fields, I think this is another situation where he's just going to be a one-year backup for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think I think it's now 5 different backups in the last 5 years for the Chiefs. Justin Fields, I mean, if he plays well here and in the interim while Patrick Mahomes is coming back from injury, I'm sure he will try to parlay that into, a better opportunity for him. He's a guy that's a former first-round pick. He's a guy, he's a big-time college football star at Ohio State. This is a guy that does not want to be a backup quarterback in the National Football League. He's a guy that wants to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. And I think, it could be a situation like this past year where Gardner Minshew came in, kind of knew what the deal was. I'm going to be behind Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to get to learn from Andy Reid and from Patrick, and then the next year I'm out of here, and then he goes to the Arizona Cardinals. Now, but with Garrett Nussmeier,
the Arizona Cardinals.
Hey, who have a wide open quarterback competition there with Kyler Murray leaving. But no, with Garrett Nussmeier, I wonder, because I think a lot of teams had this guy a lot higher on their boards than the 7th round. I think maybe the news that he had a cyst on his spine could have been potentially a reason that he kind of tumbled down there to the 7th round. But this is a guy that he's not a 7th round talent. He is a much, much better player than that. And I think Andy Reid, as much as we say Brett Veach kind of runs the operation, I think Andy Reid, personnel-wise, I think Andy Reid has a very, very big hand in that. I think Andy Reid has a very, very big hand in maybe who gets to come to the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think he's like, guys, I mean, this is a talent on the board. Like, we can't just let him stay there. Like, someone's got to take him, and it's going to be us. Because otherwise, if he becomes a free agent, he can sign wherever. He's probably not going to sign with Kansas City. He might sign with a place where he has more opportunity to play. And I think with Garrett Nussmeier, it's an ultimate insurance policy for if Justin Fields gets hurt. Think about last year, Gardner Minshew gets hurt, and the Chiefs had to put in Chris Oladokun. And Chris Oladokun, we very quickly learned, is not a National Football League quarterback. He does not belong playing anywhere on a National Football League field in games that matter. So
somewhere Chris Oladokun's agent is screen grabbing you saying that right now, and they're like waiting for like 5 years from now, if he ever makes it.
Hey, they can clip me. They can say I don't deserve to be a sports anchor in Kansas City. They can say whatever they want. We have freedom of speech in the United States. That's the beautiful thing of this country.
Boom.
But I think every Chiefs fan would agree with me that they don't want to see Chris Oladokun ever see the football field for the Kansas City Chiefs ever again. And Garrett Nussmeier, I would assume, who's been a starting quarterback at LSU, one of the best programs in America, obviously not last year, but a program rich in tradition. He's played in big game environments. He's faced big game environments, and I think he's going to be ready for playing in the National Football League should that time ever come. So I think as a developmental player for a number 3 potential quarterback on your team, that's about as good as it can be. Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah. It was an eventful weekend for the draft for sure. I like what the Chiefs did. I approve. I give my thumbs up to their 2026 draft class, but of course time will tell. Rookie minicamp starts this coming weekend, so we're going to get to meet some of these guys this weekend and hear from Andy Reid on Saturday and get to see some of them on the practice field, so that'll be exciting. But yeah, it was an eventful draft. Fernando Mendoza is going to be playing the Chiefs twice a year now. That's going to be an interesting storyline to follow. He goes first overall to the Raiders. What were some of maybe your biggest any shocks, any big storylines, anything that stuck out to you about this draft?
Well, I think one thing that really stood out was the amount of Ohio State players that were drafted.
In the first round.
Yeah, I mean, they had multiple. I mean, it was kind of unbelievable the amount of players that were, from the Ohio State University. So, I mean, shout out to whatever they're doing to get all those great players out there in Columbus, Ohio. But I think one thing that did shock me was seeing particularly 2 players fall. The first one was a guy that I would have been, I was kind of hoping that he would come here to Kansas City, was Ohio State safety Caleb Downs, because I truly believe that I think he's one of the best players in the entire draft. I know he plays safety. A lot of people don't say for what you have to pay for those top 10 picks, it's not worth it to use one on a safety because they have to be like the best safety in the league based on what you're paying them. But gosh, I think he's such a good football player. And I
if
think
you watch the Dallas Cowboys defense last season, you would know they need a safety.
Yeah, no, I got to commend the Dallas Cowboys for taking him. I think, Jerry Jones, like, they obviously understood that they're going to have to kind of pay a premium for that guy, for Caleb Downs, and they're willing to do it. And I'm very excited to see how that pans out. And then another guy I was surprised to see fall was Ruben Bain. I know a lot of people thought that the Chiefs were going to select him at 9. I know a lot of people thought when the Chiefs traded up to number 6 that it was to pick Ruben Bain because they thought a lot of people, a lot of teams were enamored with him. My Miami friends that work in the NIL space down there for Miami, they didn't think Ruben Bain was going to be there at number 9 when the Chiefs drafted. Based on some of the feedback they were hearing, they thought Ruben was going to be gone well before then, and then he dropped to number 15. So I was kind of surprised to see that. But hey, we got to see what happens. Katie, what about you though? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, our very own Kansas City kid, Cassius Howell, was another one who fell a little bit later than we thought. He was projected to be a first-round pick, but there was the chance that it would be early second round, and that is what happened, of course. And he's going to the Bengals, so that'll be kind of interesting. I know the Chiefs play at Cincinnati this year, but the next time that the Bengals come to Kansas City, that'll be a cool moment for the kid from KC, the Rockhurst alum and Texas A&M reigning SEC Defensive Player of the Year. He was also a guy that, some Chiefs fans were thinking this could be another local guy that becomes a Chief. I don't know if maybe they were left, a little scared of touching that because of like the Felix Anudike Uzama thing and him not panning out as the first round pick as a local kid from KC. I don't know, but obviously congrats to all the local kids who got drafted because we had a lot. We had 15 between all the kids who are from the KC Metro and KU, K-State, and Mizzou. Mizzou had 4 players go in the top 100, 6 players total. All the players who entered the draft got drafted. Same for K-State. They went 2 for 2. Mill Valley's own Sam Hecht was taken in the 5th round by the Panthers.
From a walk-on to NFL draft pick.
From a walk-on at K-State to an NFL draft pick. That's awesome for him. And the Jayhawks get 2 as well. So, yeah, it was a fun weekend, and now we just get to see them all kind of shine in rookie minicamp.
Well, I think the Chiefs also might have given Cassius Howell the ultimate motivation because, first of all, they didn't pick him with their late first-round pick.
Which is when I thought they would pick him.
And then, a lot of people did. And then at number 40 overall, they took a different undersized pass rusher. They took R. Mason Thomas. And then one pick after them, Cassius Howell is selected. So Cassius Howell, not only was he snubbed by his team in the first round, he's snubbed by them again in the second round, and they were selecting a pass rusher. So if the Chiefs ever play the Cincinnati Bengals, I will be on the lookout for a Cassius Howell revenge game.
And the other, of course, main storyline, I think, from this weekend is that Heisman finalist Diego Pavia is the first Heisman finalist since 2013 to go undrafted. And he has accepted an invite to rookie minicamp with the Ravens. So, interesting part there. Mark, we have 1 minute. You talked to the WNBA team, the Minnesota Lynx, that is here in Kansas City right now, and they are playing a game at 7 o'clock tonight against the Nigerian national team. What did you learn today, and why should people be excited?
Well, the Minnesota Lynx are one of the best teams in the WNBA. They're right here in Kansas City, and it's going to be a fun night out there. I know I got to talk to some of the ladies on the team out there today. They love T-Mobile Center. They think T-Mobile Center is beautiful. They think it's more than good enough to host a WNBA team. One thing that could be a potential negative, though, I did like the Lynx's best player, Nafisa Collier. She was out there in a boot with for the portion of practice that we were able to see. I didn't see her put up any shots. I didn't really see her do any basketball stuff. So it looks like maybe the Lynx's best player not going to play tonight. But they're excited to be here in Kansas City. One of their assistant coaches ate last night at 1587 Prime. She said she had really good food. And they said Kansas City has done a great job welcoming them, but they really hope to have a big, packed house, raucous environment tonight. So, hey, if it's a Monday night, you're free, you don't have anything to do, go down to T-Mobile Center, show those ladies that we love local women's sports here in Kansas City, and help put Kansas City on the map for a potential WNBA team, because we need to show up and show out if we want that to happen here.
There's still a chance. All right, it starts at 7. You can still get over there right now because tickets are still available. Thanks for joining us on KC Sports Tonight. We'll see you back here at 5:30 tomorrow.